The morning rush at Meridian Tower was like watching a perfectly choreographed chaos. Hundreds of employees, visitors, and delivery personnel moved through the marble-floored lobby with the precision of worker ants, each focused on their own urgent destination. The sound of clicking heels on polished stone mixed with the gentle hum of conversations and the occasional ding of elevator arrivals. Maya. Chen adjusted her worn messenger bag and checked her phone for the third time. She was already running 15 minutes late for her interview at Preston Marketing, a mid-tier agency on the 20th floor. Her palms were sweaty despite the building's air conditioning, and she could feel her heart hammering against her ribs. This job could be her ticket out of the cramped studio apartment she shared with 2 roommates in Queens. As she approached the elevator bank, Maya noticed the crowd had thickened. Monday mornings were always brutal in Manhattan's financial district, but today seemed particularly overwhelming. She pressed the up button and waited, watching the digital display show floors counting down. 15. 8. That's when she saw her. An elderly woman with silver hair stood near the elevator doors, her white cane tapping gently against the floor. She wore a navy blue coat that had seen better years, and her head turned slightly from side to side as she tried to orient herself in the bustling space. Maya watched as person after person brushed past the woman, their eyes glued to phones or fixed on the elevator displays, completely oblivious to her struggle. The elevator dinged, and its doors slid open. The crowd surged forward like water through a broken dam. Maya saw the elderly woman take a hesitant step forward, her cane extended, but she was immediately pushed aside by a man in an expensive suit who charged past her without so much as an acknowledgement. "Excuse me?" Maya called out, but her voice was lost in the noise. She watched the woman's shoulders slump slightly, and something in Maya's chest tightened. Her job interview suddenly felt less important than the human being standing 3 feet away from her. Maya approached carefully, not wanting to startle her. "Ma'am, would you like some help getting to the elevator?" The woman's face brightened immediately, transforming her entire appearance. "Oh, bless you, dear. Yes, I'm trying to get to the 32nd floor for a doctor's appointment, but I'm having trouble navigating this crowd." "No problem at all," Maya said, gently offering her arm. "I'm Maya." "I'm Eleanor," the woman replied, accepting the assistance with grace. "Eleanor Williams." Maya guided Eleanor through the sea of bodies, politely but firmly creating a path. "Excuse us, coming through," she said with quiet confidence. When the next elevator arrived, Maya made sure Eleanor was the first one to enter, positioning herself slightly behind to shield her from the pushing crowd. What Maya didn't notice was the woman standing 10 feet away, observing the entire interaction with sharp, calculating eyes. Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises, had been watching the elevator chaos unfold from her position near the information desk. At 45, Victoria had built a business empire worth $800 million, and she'd done it by recognizing potential where others saw nothing. Victoria had arrived early for a meeting with her building's property manager, but now found herself transfixed by the young woman helping the blind lady. In Victoria's world of corporate ladders and power plays, genuine kindness without expectation of reward had become as rare as hen's teeth. She watched Maya's careful movements, the way she anticipated Eleanor's needs without being asked, the patient smile on her face as she made small talk to put the older woman at ease. Inside the elevator, Maya pressed the button for the 32nd floor and then her own destination on 20. "Are you familiar with the building layout on 32? She asked Eleanor. "Not particularly," Eleanor admitted. "It's my first time seeing this doctor." Maya pulled out her phone and quickly searched for the directory. "Dr. Morrison's office is Suite 32 on Theme. When you get off, turn right and follow the wall. It should be the 4th door down." "You're an angel," Eleanor said, squeezing Maya's hand. Not many young people would take the time these days. As the elevator climbed, Maya felt a warm satisfaction that had nothing to do with her upcoming interview. She'd grown up with her grandmother, who had lost most of her vision to diabetes in her final years. Maya understood how isolating and frightening the world could become when you couldn't see the kindness in people's faces. The elevator stopped at 20, and Maya prepared to get off. "It was lovely meeting you, Eleanor. I hope your appointment goes well." "Thank you, dear," You've made an old woman's day brighter." As Maya stepped into the 20th floor corridor, she had no idea that her simple act of kindness had just been witnessed by someone with the power to change her life completely. Victoria Sterling remained in the elevator, her mind already working, already planning. Behind her designer sunglasses, Victoria's eyes held a spark of interest that her employees would have recognized immediately. It was the look she got when she'd found exactly what she'd been searching for: the offices of Preston. Marketing buzzed with the kind of frantic energy that spoke of missed deadlines and impossible client demands. Maya sat in the cramped reception area, trying to calm her nerves while the receptionist, a young man with perfectly styled hair and an attitude to match, pointedly ignored her presence. Maya Chen? A woman in her 30s appeared, clipboard in hand and expression already bored. "I'm Jennifer Walsh, HR coordinator. You're late. I'm sorry. I was helping someone in the lobby and..." "Save it for the interview," Jennifer cut her off. "Follow me." Maya's heart sank as she followed Jennifer down a narrow hallway lined with motivational posters that looked like they'd been purchased in bulk from a discount office supply store. The interview room was a windowless box with fluorescent lighting that made everyone look slightly ill. 3 people sat behind a cheap conference table. Jennifer, a middle-aged man in a rumpled shirt who introduced himself as Dave from accounts, and a sharp-looking woman in her 40s wearing what Maya suspected was a knockoff designer suit. "This is Rebecca Martinez, our creative director," Jennifer said without enthusiasm. "Let's get started." Maya took a seat across from them, trying to project confidence despite the hostile atmosphere. She'd researched the company thoroughly, prepared thoughtful questions, and even brought a portfolio of her freelance work from college. "So," Rebecca began, flipping through Maya's resume with barely concealed disdain, "you graduated from SUNY Purchase with a communications degree. Not exactly Columbia, is it?" Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks but maintained her composure. "I chose Purchase because of their strong practical program. I worked on real campaigns with local businesses and gained hands-on experience that I believe..." "Right," Dave interrupted, leaning back in his chair. "Tell me about your internship at that... what was it? Community center in Brooklyn?" "The Sunset Park Community Center," Maya said, straightening in her chair. "I developed their entire social media strategy and increased their community engagement by 300% over 6 months. Rebecca snorted. "Community engagement. How many followers are we talking about? 50? 100? Actually, we grew from 200 to over 3,000 followers. And more importantly, we increased actual program participation by 40%. The 3 exchangers glanced at each other. Maya could sense their skepticism, but she pressed on. "I also helped them secure their first major corporate sponsor by creating a presentation that..." "Look," Jennifer said, checking her phone. "We've got other candidates to see. Do you have any questions for us?" Maya's prepared question suddenly seemed pointless, but she forged ahead anyway. "What would a typical day look like in this position? What opportunities are there for growth?" Dave laughed, actually laughed. "Sweetheart, this is an entry-level position. You'll be doing data entry, maybe some basic social media posting if you're lucky. Growth opportunities?" He shrugged. "Maybe in a few years you could move up to junior account coordinator." The condescension in his voice made Maya's stomach churn. She looked around the room, at the water-stained ceiling tiles, the motivational posters with their generic corporate speak, the 3 people who seemed to take pleasure in crushing dreams before lunch. "I see," Maya said quietly. "And the salary range you mentioned in the job posting?" Rebecca's smile was sharp as a blade. "Well, given your limited experience, we'd be looking at the lower end of that range. About $28,000 to start." Maya's heart dropped. $28,000 in New York City was barely enough to survive, let alone thrive. She'd been hoping for something closer to the $40,000 mentioned in the posting. "We'll be in touch," Jennifer said, already standing. The interview had lasted exactly 12 minutes. Maya gathered her things and left the building in a daze. Outside, the autumn air felt crisp against her flushed cheeks. She found a small coffee cart on the corner and bought a cup of coffee she couldn't really afford, needing a moment to process what had just happened. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate, Sarah. "How did it go? Champagne ready for celebration?" Maya stared at the message, not sure how to respond. The truth was she felt defeated. 6 months of job searching, dozens of applications, and this was what she had to show for it. Another humiliating rejection from a company that seemed to view basic human decency as weakness. She thought about Eleanor from the elevator. The older woman's gratitude had felt genuine, warm. It was a stark contrast to the cold professionalism she'd just encountered upstairs. As Maya walked toward the subway, she passed the Meridian Tower lobby again. Through the glass doors, she could see the same chaotic dance of people rushing to their destinations. For a moment, she wondered about all the stories contained in that building. The dreams being pursued, the deals being made, the lives being changed. She had no way of knowing that one story, her story, was about to take a turn that would make this morning's disappointment seem like nothing more than a bad dream. Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Sarah. It was an unknown number with a message that made her stop walking entirely. Ms. Chen, this is Victoria Sterling's office. Mrs. Sterling would like to meet with you regarding a potential opportunity. Are you available this afternoon? Please reply at your earliest convenience. Maya read the message 3 times before it sank in. Victoria Sterling. She'd heard that name before, seen it in business magazines. Sterling Enterprises, one of the most successful companies in the city. But how did they get her number? And why would they want to meet with her? Standing on the busy sidewalk, Maya felt the first flutter of something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. Victoria Sterling's corner office occupied the entire 42nd floor of Meridian Tower, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of Manhattan's skyline. The space was a study in understated luxury, modern furniture and neutral tones, carefully curated art pieces, and not a single item out of place. Everything from the Italian marble floors to the custom-designed conference table spoke of success earned through decades of hard work and strategic thinking. Victoria stood at her window, watching the ant-like movement of traffic far below. At 45, she had built Sterling Enterprises from a small consulting firm into a multi-million-dollar corporation specializing in corporate restructuring and strategic development. Her success had come at a cost: 2 failed marriages, a strained relationship with her teenage daughter, and a growing sense that somewhere along the way, she'd lost touch with the person she used to be. Her assistant, Marcus, appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Sterling? Maya Chen is here for your 3 o'clock. Victoria turned from the window. Send her in. And Marcus, hold my calls for the next hour. Maya entered the office and immediately felt underdressed in her department store blazer and scuffed shoes. The woman behind the desk was everything Maya expected from a CEO. Impeccably dressed in a tailored gray suit, her auburn hair pulled back in a perfect chignon, her green eyes sharp and assessing. Ms. Chen, thank you for coming on such short notice. Please, have a seat. Maya settled into one of the leather chairs facing Victoria's desk, trying to project confidence despite her confusion. I have to admit, Ms. Sterling, I'm not sure why I'm here. Your message was quite unexpected. Victoria smiled, and Maya was surprised by how it transformed her face, making her look younger and more approachable. I imagine it was. Tell me, Maya. May I call you Maya? What do you know about Sterling Enterprises? I know you're one of the most successful consulting firms in the country, Maya said carefully. You specialize in helping companies restructure and improve their operations. You've been featured in Forbes several times. You did your homework. Good. Victoria leaned back in her chair. What you might not know is that I've been looking for someone with a very specific set of qualities. Someone with natural empathy, integrity, and the ability to see possibilities where others see problems. Maya felt increasingly confused. I'm not sure I understand the connection to... This morning, in the elevator lobby, Victoria interrupted gently. I watched you help an elderly woman navigate through a crowd of people who couldn't be bothered to acknowledge her existence. You were late for something. I could see it in your body language, but you stopped anyway. Maya's eyes widened. You were there? I didn't see. I was by the information desk. Victoria stood and walked around her desk, perching on the edge in a more casual pose. In my line of work, I spend a lot of time observing human behavior. Most people, when they're under pressure or stress, show their true character. You showed kindness. It wasn't anything special, Maya said quietly. Anyone would have done the same. Victoria's laugh was knowing but not unkind. Maya, I watched at least 50 people walk past that woman without a second glance. You were the only one who stopped. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. I grew up with my grandmother. She lost her sight when I was in high school. I know how isolating it can be when you can't see people's reactions, when you can't tell if someone is smiling at you or frowning. Tell me about your grandmother. The question caught Maya off guard, but something in Victoria's tone made her want to answer honestly. Nai, that's what I called her, raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8. She worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, never complained, never made me feel like a burden. When she started losing her vision, I became her eyes. We were a team, Victoria nodded slowly. What happened to her? She passed away 2 years ago, just before I graduated college. Maya's voice caught slightly. I promised her I'd make something of myself, that I'd use the opportunities she gave me to help other people. And how's that going for you? Maya couldn't help but laugh, though it came out bitter. Not so well, honestly. I've been job hunting for 6 months. I had an interview this morning at Preston Marketing that was humiliating. They made it clear that my education wasn't good enough, my experience wasn't relevant, and my salary expectations were unrealistic. Victoria's expression darkened. Preston Marketing. I know them. Small-minded people who mistake cynicism for sophistication. She returned to her chair. Maya, I want to offer you a position. Maya's heart stopped. I'm sorry, what? I need someone to head up a new division I'm launching, Sterling Community Initiatives. It's a subsidiary focused on corporate social responsibility and community engagement. The salary would be $65,000 to start, with performance bonuses and full benefits. Maya felt like she was in a dream. Ms. Sterling, I'm flattered, but you don't even know my qualifications. You haven't seen my resume or... Victoria opened a folder on her desk and pulled out several sheets of paper. Maya Chen, graduated summa cum laude from SUNY Purchase with a degree in communications and a minor in business administration. Dean's List every semester. President of the Student Volunteer Organization. Internship coordinator at Sunset Park Community Center, where you increased program participation by 40% and secured their first major corporate sponsorship. Maya stared at her, speechless. I had my team pull your information after this morning, Victoria continued. Your academic record is impressive, but more importantly, your community work shows exactly the kind of thinking I need. You understand that business success and social responsibility aren't mutually exclusive. I don't understand, Maya said weakly. You're offering me a job based on helping one person in an elevator? Victoria set down the papers and looked Maya directly in the eye. I'm offering you a job because you helped one person in an elevator when you had every reason not to. Because you saw someone who needed help, and you acted without calculating what you might gain from it. In corporate America, that kind of authentic compassion is rarer than you might think. Maya's mind raced. What would this position actually involve? You'd work directly with me to develop partnerships with community organizations, create employee volunteer programs, and establish Sterling Enterprises as a company that genuinely cares about social impact. It's a new venture, which means you'd have significant autonomy to build something meaningful from the ground up. The offer was everything Maya had dreamed of. Good salary, meaningful work, the chance to make a real difference. But it felt too good to be true. Why me? She asked again. There must be hundreds of people with more experience who could do this job. Victoria smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Because Maya, I've hired plenty of experienced people who knew how to talk about empathy, but had never actually felt it. What I saw in that lobby this morning, that can't be taught or faked. It's who you are. Maya took a deep breath, thinking of her grandmother's weathered hands and her voice saying, use your opportunities to help other people. When would I start? 3 weeks into her new position at Sterling Enterprises, Maya was beginning to understand the magnitude of what Victoria had entrusted to her. The Sterling Community Initiatives Division occupied a newly renovated floor of the building, complete with modern workstations, a conference room with smart boards, and windows that offered stunning views of Central Park. Maya's team consisted of 4 other employees: David Kim, a recent MBA graduate with expertise in nonprofit management; Sarah Rodriguez, a communications specialist with experience in social media and public relations; Michael Thompson, a data analyst who could track community impact metrics, and Janet Liu, an administrative coordinator who kept everything running smoothly. On this particular Wednesday morning, Maya was preparing for what Victoria had called her first real test. A meeting with the board of directors to present her preliminary plan for Sterling's community engagement. Initiatives, you nervous? David asked, poking his head into Maya's office. The space still felt surreal to her. She had her own office, with a desk, a window, and a nameplate that read, Maya Chen, Director of Community Initiatives. Terrified, Maya admitted, shuffling through her presentation notes for the third time. I've never presented to a board of directors before. Sarah appeared beside David, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Here, you look like you need this. And don't worry, your presentation is solid. We've all reviewed it. Maya accepted the coffee gratefully. The team had spent the past week refining her proposal, and she was proud of what they'd created. The initiative focused on 3 core areas: employee volunteer programs, strategic partnerships with local nonprofits, and microgrants for community projects. Ms. Chen, Marcus, Victoria's assistant, appeared in her doorway. Ms. Sterling would like to see you before the board meeting. Maya made her way to Victoria's office, her heels clicking on the marble floors. Over the past 3 weeks, she'd discovered that Victoria was even more impressive up close. Brilliant, demanding, but also surprisingly supportive when Maya had questions or needed guidance. Come in, Victoria called. She was standing by her window again, a habit Maya had noticed. Are you ready for this afternoon? As ready as I'll ever be, Maya said, trying to project confidence. Victoria turned to face her. Maya, I want you to know that some of the board members are skeptical about this initiative. They see it as an unnecessary expense, a distraction from our core business. Maya's stomach clenched. Are you having second thoughts about the program? Not at all. But I want you to be prepared for pushback. Harrison Wells, our CFO, is particularly vocal about what he calls feel-good spending. He's going to challenge you on every budget line item. Victoria walked to her desk and picked up a thick folder. I've put together some additional information. Case studies of companies that have seen measurable business benefits from community engagement programs. Use them if you need to. Maya accepted the folder. Victoria, can I ask you something? Of course. Why is this so important to you? I mean, you built this company by focusing on profits and efficiency. Community initiatives aren't exactly your usual territory. Victoria was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the city skyline. Do you know what I was doing before I started Sterling Enterprises, Maya? You were a consultant at McKinsey, weren't you? Before that, right out of college. Victoria's voice took on a distant quality. I volunteered at a women's shelter in Boston. I was there for 2 years, helping women rebuild their lives after domestic violence. It was the most meaningful work I'd ever done. Maya was surprised by this revelation. It didn't fit the image of the hard-nosed businesswoman she'd read about in magazines. What changed? Victoria smiled sadly. Life, business school. The need to prove myself in a male-dominated industry. Somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that making money was more important than making a difference. I told myself I could always go back to helping people later, when I was established. She returned to her chair, later kept getting pushed back. Years turned into decades. I built a successful company, but I lost something essential about who I was. And now? Now I'm 45 years old, and I realize that success without purpose is just elaborate bookkeeping. Victoria looked directly at Maya. What I saw in that elevator lobby, that's who I used to be. This initiative isn't just about Sterling Enterprises doing good in the community. It's about remembering that businesses are made up of people, and people have a responsibility to take care of each other. Maya felt a new understanding of the weight Victoria had placed on her shoulders. This wasn't just a job or even a business initiative. It was Victoria's attempt to reclaim a part of herself she'd lost. I won't let you down, Maya said quietly. I know you won't. But Maya, remember, even if the board doesn't approve the full program today, this is just the beginning. Change happens slowly in corporate environments. Don't get discouraged if you don't get everything you're asking for. 2 hours later, Maya stood at the head of the boardroom table, facing 8 of the most powerful business leaders in New York. The room itself was intimidating. Dark wood paneling, leather chairs, oil paintings of stern-faced men in suits. Victoria sat at the opposite end of the table, her expression neutral but encouraging. Harrison Wells, the CFO, was exactly as Victoria had described, a thin man in his 50s with silver hair and the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. He'd already questioned Maya's qualifications twice before she'd even begun her presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Maya began, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I'm here today to present Sterling Community Initiatives, a program that will not only benefit our community but also drive measurable business value for Sterling Enterprises." She clicked to her first slide, which showed a graph of employee retention rates at companies with strong community engagement programs. Companies with robust community involvement see an average of 23% higher employee retention, Maya continued. They also report increased productivity, improved brand reputation, and better talent acquisition. Harrison interrupted, his tone dismissive. "Ms. Chen, these feel-good statistics are all well and good, but what's the actual cost to the company? I've looked at your budget proposal, and it's quite substantial for what amounts to charity work." Maya had prepared for this. "Mr. Wells, I appreciate your concern about costs. However, I'd like you to consider the cost of not investing in our community." She clicked to the next slide. "Employee turnover costs Sterling Enterprises approximately $120,000 per departing employee when you factor in recruitment, training, and lost productivity. If our community initiatives help us retain just 5 employees per year, the program pays for itself." She saw several board members nod thoughtfully. Encouraged, Maya continued with her presentation, detailing specific partnerships, volunteer opportunities, and measurable outcomes. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then Robert Chen, no relation, the head of operations, spoke up. "Ms. Chen, this is impressive work. I particularly like the micro-grant program for small business development. How would you measure success?" Maya smiled, feeling more confident. "We've developed a comprehensive metrics dashboard that tracks both quantitative measures, dollars invested, hours volunteered, businesses supported, and qualitative outcomes like employee satisfaction scores and community feedback." The questions continued for another 20 minutes. Some were supportive, others skeptical, but Maya answered them all with the thoroughness and passion that had gotten her this far. Finally, Victoria spoke. "Thank you, Maya. Board members, I'd like to call for a preliminary vote on moving forward with a pilot version of Sterling Community Initiatives." The vote was closer than Maya had hoped. 5 in favor, 3 opposed, but it was enough. As the board members filed out, Victoria approached Maya. "Well done. You've got 6 months to prove the concept works." Maya felt a mixture of relief and determination. "Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for reminding me why this matters." Victoria paused. "Maya, there's something else. Tomorrow, I'd like you to meet with someone special. Eleanor Williams, the woman you helped in the elevator. She's agreed to be our first community partnership." Maya's eyes widened. "Eleanor, how did you—" Victoria smiled mysteriously. "Let's just say that morning was full of surprises for everyone involved." 6 months later, the Sterling Community Initiatives had exceeded every projection Maya had dared to hope for. The program had facilitated over 2,000 volunteer hours, established partnerships with 15 local nonprofits, and distributed 50 microgrants to small businesses in underserved communities. Employee satisfaction scores had increased by 18%, and Sterling Enterprises had received recognition from the mayor's office for corporate citizenship. Maya stood in the same elevator lobby where her journey had begun, but this time she wasn't nervous or late. She was here for the official launch event of the Eleanor Williams Community Center, Sterling's flagship partnership project. The lobby had been transformed for the celebration. Banners hung from the ceiling, tables displayed information about various community programs, and a small stage had been set up near the information desk. Representatives from partner organizations mingled with Sterling employees, local business owners, and community leaders. Maya, Sarah Rodriguez, appeared at her side, practically glowing with excitement. Channel 7 News just interviewed 3 of our microgrant recipients, and the Times reporter wants to speak with you about expanding the program to other cities. Maya still couldn't quite believe how far they'd come. The Eleanor Williams Community Center, named after the woman whose simple need for help had started everything, was a renovated space in Brooklyn that provided job training, financial literacy classes, and small business incubation services. "There's our star." David Kim joined them, carrying a clipboard full of notes. "Eleanor's been looking for you. She's by the stage with Victoria." Maya made her way through the crowd, stopping to thank volunteers and chat with community partners. The energy in the room was infectious, genuine excitement about the difference they were making together. She found Eleanor near the stage, looking elegant in a navy blue dress, her silver hair styled perfectly. Next to her stood Victoria, who had traded her usual corporate attire for a more casual blazer and slacks. "Maya, dear." Eleanor reached out, and Maya took her hands warmly. Over the past 6 months, Eleanor had become both a mentor and a friend. It turned out she had been a social worker for 30 years before her retirement, and her insights had been invaluable in shaping the community programs. "Eleanor, you look beautiful. How are you feeling about today?" "Overwhelmed, honestly," Eleanor laughed. "When Victoria first approached me about this idea, I never imagined it would grow into something so wonderful." Maya looked at Victoria, who was watching the crowd with an expression of quiet satisfaction. "It's been quite a journey for all of us." "Ladies and gentlemen," the event coordinator announced from the stage, "we're ready to begin the dedication ceremony." Victoria took the microphone first. 6 months ago, Sterling Enterprises launched our Community Initiatives program with a simple belief that businesses have a responsibility to strengthen the communities where they operate. Today, we're not just celebrating a new community center. We're celebrating the power of human connection and the extraordinary things that happen when we choose to help each other. She gestured to Maya. "I'd like to introduce Maya Chen, the Director of Community Initiatives, whose vision and dedication have made all of this possible." Maya stepped up to the microphone, looking out at the sea of faces, some familiar, some new, all united by a shared commitment to making their community stronger. "When I helped a woman find an elevator 6 months ago," Maya began, her voice carrying clearly through the lobby, "I had no idea I was taking the first step on a journey that would change my life. Eleanor Williams taught me that every interaction is an opportunity to make someone's day a little brighter. Victoria Sterling taught me that business success and social responsibility aren't just compatible. They're inseparable." She paused, seeing her team in the crowd, their faces proud and supportive. "But the most important lesson I've learned is that we're all capable of more than we think. Every person in this room has the power to create positive change, whether it's through volunteer work, charitable giving, or simply choosing kindness in our daily interactions." The applause was warm and sustained. As Maya stepped back from the microphone, Eleanor was introduced for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. "This community center," Eleanor said, her voice strong and clear, "represents what's possible when we see each other not as strangers, but as neighbors. When young people like Maya choose compassion over convenience, and when business leaders like Victoria choose purpose over pure profit." She picked up the ceremonial scissors. "I dedicate this center to everyone who has ever stopped to help someone find their way." The ribbon fell, and the crowd erupted in applause. Maya felt tears prick her eyes as she watched the celebration unfold around her. Later, as the event wound down and the crowds began to disperse, Maya found herself back by the elevators with Victoria and Eleanor. "So," Victoria said, "what's next for Sterling Community Initiatives?" Maya smiled, thinking of the expansion plans they'd been developing, the new partnerships in the works, the young people who would benefit from the programs they were creating. "There's a proposal on your desk for expanding to Chicago and Los Angeles," Maya said. "And I've been talking with the city about a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs." "Sounds like you're going to be busy," Eleanor observed. "The best kind of busy," Maya replied. As they stood there in the lobby where it all began, Maya reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. 6 months ago, she'd been struggling to find her place in the world, facing rejection and uncertainty. Now she was leading initiatives that were making a real difference in people's lives. "Victoria," Maya said, "can I ask you something I've been wondering about?" "Of course." "That morning in the elevator, you said you were there for a meeting with the property manager. Was that true?" Victoria and Eleanor exchanged a glance, and both women started laughing. "Actually," Victoria said. I was there because Eleanor had called my office the week before. Maya looked confused. What do you mean? Eleanor grinned mischievously. Dear, I may be blind, but I'm not helpless. I'd been researching Sterling Enterprises for months, trying to find a way to approach Victoria about a community partnership. When she agreed to meet me, I suggested the lobby of her building. But the crowd, your confusion about finding the elevator. Oh, that was real enough, Eleanor admitted. I am genuinely directionally challenged in new spaces, but I'd hoped someone kind might offer to help. Maya stared at them both. You mean this was all planned? Not planned exactly, Victoria corrected. Eleanor and I had no way of knowing if anyone would stop to help, or if that person would be someone worth knowing. We were testing a theory about human nature. And you passed the test beautifully, Eleanor added, squeezing Maya's arm. Maya shook her head in amazement. I can't decide if I'm impressed or terrified by how well you two planned this. Sometimes, Victoria said, the best opportunities come from putting ourselves in situations where kindness can flourish. We just created the conditions and trusted that good people would reveal themselves. As Maya headed home that evening, walking through the streets of Manhattan with a sense of purpose she'd never felt before, she thought about the chain of events that had brought her to this moment. A simple act of kindness had unlocked doors she didn't even know existed. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate, Sarah. Saw you on the news. So proud of you, Maya smiled, looking up at the lights of the city around her. Somewhere in this vast metropolis, there were other Eleanor Williams waiting for help. Other Victoria Sterlings looking for people with heart. Other Maya Chens ready to discover what they were truly capable of. All it took was choosing to see each other, to help each other, to believe that small acts of kindness could grow into something extraordinary. And that's the incredible story of how one moment of kindness created a ripple effect that changed not just Maya's life, but an entire community. Sometimes the most powerful transformations begin with the simplest gestures, a helping hand, a moment of compassion, the choice to see someone else's need as more important than our own. Convenience. Maya's journey from a struggling job seeker to the director of a thriving community. Initiative proves that opportunities often come disguised as ordinary moments. When we choose kindness without expecting anything in return, we open doors we never knew existed. Victoria's search for authentic compassion and Eleanor's faith in human goodness created the perfect storm for Maya's talents to shine. The Eleanor Williams Community Center continues to thrive today, serving hundreds of families and small business owners. Maya's program has expanded to 12 cities across the United States, and Sterling Enterprises has become a model for how corporations can create meaningful social impact while building stronger, more engaged teams. But perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is its simplicity. It didn't require wealth, connections, or extraordinary talents, just the willingness to pause, to care, and to act on that caring. Every single day presents us with elevator moments, chances to choose between rushing past someone in need or stopping to offer help, as Maya often tells audiences when she speaks about the Sterling community. Initiatives. We never know who's watching when we make the choice to be kind. But more importantly, we never know how that kindness might change, not just someone else's life, but our own. Thank you so much for joining me on Maya's inspiring journey today. If this story moved you or reminded you of the power we all have to make a difference, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Share your own story of unexpected kindness, or tell us about a time when someone's simple gesture changed your day. And if you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to our channel and giving this video a like. It helps us continue sharing these uplifting stories of human connection and possibility. Remember, your next act of kindness might just be the beginning of someone's incredible journey. Until next time, keep choosing compassion and keep believing in the extraordinary power of ordinary kindness.